Welcome, everyone. I'm Grace Korea-Kanja, and this is Africa Matters. Now, there's been a recent wave of abductions and arrests of senior opposition leaders in Tanzania. The latest Amnesty International report reveals that several governments on the continent are also accused of targeting opposition parties and stifling their activities in countries like Burundi, Niger, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. So what's behind the apparent opposition crackdown? Tanzania has a history of political detentions, particularly during the 6-year reign of former President John Pombe Magufuli. But things changed for the better when President Samia Suluhu Hassan took office in 2021. Opposition parties now say they fear a return to repressive rule. For the last 3 years, President Samia has been implementing her policy of 4 Rs, which are reconciliation, resilience, reforms, and rebuilding. In January last year, she lifted a 2016 ban on opposition gatherings, pledging to restore competitive politics. That same month, opposition leader Tundu Lissu returned from exile after sustaining life-threatening injuries when his car was sprayed with at least 16 bullets in 2017.
We will not tolerate any actions that bring chaos and discord in the country. Now, it is good that we do not forget, and those who are preparing for chaos should not forget the past. It is this 4 Rs philosophy that made it possible for them to return to this country. We turned a blind eye to everything else. Let's rebuild our country.
But in August, Tanzania police said that arrested some 520 people across the country, including top opposition Chadema party leaders, ahead of a banned youth rally. In early September, Ali Kibao, an opposition official, was abducted, killed, and his body doused in acid by unknown assailants. And a planned September 23rd protest to demonstrate against alleged killings and abductions of government critics in Dar es Salaam was blocked by police, and opposition leaders were arrested yet again.
Protests are a constitutional right. When such force is used to bring in soldiers, many of whom are armed, and at a great cost to the taxpayer of this country, it is not fair. We're protesting because we're in for mourning. It is a call for justice.
President Samia has called for investigations into Kibao's murder, saying her government cannot tolerate such brutal acts. But the family of Dusdedith Soko, an opposition youth activist with the Chadema party, blamed the government for his abduction in August.
We have requested that they bring him back to us if he is alive. Even if he is dead, let them bring him so that we can bury him. We are suffering.
All right, let's hear more from Tito Magoti. He is a human rights lawyer. Let's dive in straight away. Thank you so much, Tito, for joining us.
Pleasure.
Right. So straight on, are opposition parties in Tanzania being targeted and stifled in your view?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, no one anticipated that the country would drift into another serious case of, brutalities we are seeing now, specifically amongst the members of the opposition, with the latest saddening news being the death of Ali Kibao,
Sure.
A senior cadre with the Chadema opposition party. But also, in the past 2 months, we have seen close to more than 100 people being arrested, including the top leaders of the opposition, who have been arrested twice. So it's a situation that no one ever anticipated that it would happen at this moment. But it seems like Tanzania, especially Islam, is now a police state.
Right, but then again, Tito, the local elections are in November. The main elections, the general elections, are only until next year, 2025 October. Why so early? What's at stake?
Yeah, I mean, I think the president was ambitious when she took over the country in 2021, and she has probably now known how to utilize political power to her advantage, which is why she's trying to screw people away from participating in the political governance. So I think it's a paranoia that wasn't supposed to happen, but probably it shows that maybe we shall the regime is leaning towards being repressive than ever, with a view making sure that they secure the local government election and probably the next year's election by scaring the people to really participate in the electoral processes, but also making sure that no one ever comes up to criticize the regime.
Right, and we'll talk about that bit of being repressive, but let's remain and stick on the elections, because then that begs the question, do you think they're going to be free and fair, and what needs to change? If you don't think so, what needs to change to achieve that?
Well, nothing really has been fundamentally changed in terms of the election management. We still have the same constitution, which doesn't allow electoral grievances to be entertained by courts, but we still have the same returning officers ruling, overseeing the election management process. So it is not expected that something will fundamentally change, other than the usual tactical mechanism that has been babysitting the ruling party for over 6 years. But also, over a year ago, there was like a process to really dwell into, they called it minimal reforms in the political and the electoral laws. But most of the fundamental questions have been addressed. You look at the participation of the citizens in the elections. With the latest election being the 2020, the turnover wasn't convincing as compared to other elections we have ever had, which also signals that probably people will not feel like they are now confident with the current electoral system, the election management system, and that now they will go to confidently vote. It is not expected.
Right.
However, I think there's also an appetite amongst youth to participate, to try to shape our politics, but the system of election management remains the same.
Right, and Tito, you were arrested in 2019. You were detained without trial for over a year. So this is where we talk about that return to the repressive rule, which you mentioned. So does this opposition crackdown, does it signal that, in your view?
Yeah, it does. It does, because it is time. It's the chronicles, as you rightly said. Because as we speak now, we have more than 10 youth belonging to the Chadema part who are missing. They have been abducted, and our reliable mindset tells ourselves that it is the police who are cracking down on the opposition, on the youth from the opposition. And also we are seeing a retaliation against youth and rights actors, including rights defenders and activists, some of whom have been made to take ballots, including the young boy. It's called Sativa. He was abducted. He was missing for 5 days, and then he was found abandoned in a national park. I think we are also being warned that maybe it's the time for us to watch our back and maybe disengage from political governance processes.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Tito Magoti there, a human rights lawyer, for your time and your contribution. Still to come here on Africa Matters.
I'm Timothy Obiezu in Nigeria, Africa's top oil producer, where the distribution of petroleum products like gasoline and diesel is mostly by road, using large trucks like these. But with shocking conditions, accidents are common.
Now, despite some progress, the current Mpox emergency has yet again brought the issue of vaccine inequity into sharp focus. The scarcity of COVID-19 jabs during the pandemic exposed the urgent need to develop and manufacture doses in the continent. That's because Africa only produces 1% of the vaccine it uses. The Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo has not received all the Mpox vaccines it needs, and like many others, South Africa hasn't either, as Crystal Oderson reports.
Africa uses 25% of vaccines produced globally, yet only manufactures 1%. The continent waited months before it could access vaccines during the COVID-19 pandemic. This forced the African Union and the Africa Centre for Disease Control to develop a plan to support local manufacturing. A new African biotech startup, Afrigen, is changing this narrative and now producing vaccines for the continent.
We are currently standing in the research and development laboratories where we are developing the mRNA vaccine, firstly for COVID as a model vaccine, and then we also have a few other mRNA vaccines in the pipeline.
It's not been easy for African vaccine manufacturers, but with the support of the African Union and WHO, Afrigen is now one of a handful of African local entities producing made-in-Africa mRNA vaccines. Blanche says Mpox yet again demonstrated how vulnerable the continent is, and it matters where vaccines are manufactured.
We've passed the 100-day mark and we don't have vaccines. We don't have sufficient vaccines. So I think, again, Mpox is going to bring the energy and the impetus and the realization how important it is to make sure that we succeed in the goals that we've set for this continent. In addition, is there an initiative to look at the innovation side of Mpox vaccines? Can we improve on the current vaccines? Can we make sure that a new vaccine will protect against the different clades, the different variants?
The continent has united to leverage the capacities that have been built during the last 3 years to access vaccines. There's been several Mpox cases reported in South Africa, and local doctors say education is key.
Lesson number one, in terms of just being vigilant, is us as GPs, and I belong on little social media groups, WhatsApp groups, Instagram groups with fellow doctors. We send alerts out to each other, educating ourselves on signs and symptoms, what to look out for, and we get many notifications from the NICD, which is the National Institute of Communicable Diseases.
South Africa's health ministry said it agreed with the World Health Organization decision that because of the scarcity of the Mpox vaccines, it had to prioritize countries like the DRC. Health authorities indicated that they are awaiting a couple thousand doses that will be for very high-risk patients. Health experts say the lack of access to vaccines in Africa not only poses a threat to the continent's public health, but also hinders its ability to effectively respond to the global health crisis. Crystal Audison, Africa Matters, Cape Town.
And staying in South Africa now, did you know there's a train that shuttles between South Africa's capital, Pretoria, and Johannesburg, bringing healthcare across the Highveld? The train, which began as an eye clinic, now offers free health services to all. Rupert Stone has more.
It's called Philopeapa, which means good, clean health in the Sesotho language. And it offers just that.
I got my eyes checked. I had a pap smear done. They cleaned my teeth. I went for a health check and had a gender assessment done. This train is helpful to us. It truly, truly, truly helps. All I ask is that it doesn't end here today. They must come back again and help us, even if it's next year. There's so many of us out here who are really sick.
For 3 decades now, the train, run by the Transnet Foundation, a state-owned railway company, has provided healthcare services to about 375,000 people every single year. What started as a 3-carriage operation has grown to 2 16 carriages of a hospital on wheels.
I came here at Ogmo to assist me here to come and check my eyes because I've been suffering a lot from my eyesight. I can't see nothing, so I see blurry. So I heard that there's a train coming here, coming to assist people. So they take like 150 people per day, then come assist them tomorrow. So some of them and some of us, we sleep here because we live far.
Government data shows that just 16% of South Africans are covered by health insurance. That means the rest rely on the public healthcare system, which is overstretched.
The basket of primary healthcare services that we offer are general health and wellness checkups. We have professional nurses. We offer screening for a range of cancers, chronic conditions such as diabetes. We have a fully fledged dental clinic on board where we offer minor procedures up to restoration as well as extraction.
Despite an increase in the government's budgetary allocation to the health department in Gauteng province, which includes Johannesburg and Pretoria, rampant corruption has affected healthcare services. The sight of Philopiapa rolling into the station means that many patients here can finally see a doctor. Rupert Stone, Africa Matters.
To Nigeria now, which is the 8th largest oil exporter in the world in terms of value. But due to the lack of effective pipeline and railway networks, nearly 80% of petroleum products is delivered by road. However, there are hundreds of petrol tanker accidents every year, killing hundreds of people. Timothy Obiezu joined one tanker driver on a bumpy ride.
With 60,000 liters of highly inflammable fuel on Nigerian roads like this, tanker driver Musa Idris is sitting on a ticking time bomb. He's been doing this for 18 years and he knows the danger only too well.
Whenever I step out of the house, my family will be on their knees praying to God for my return. Our main problem is the road. About 2 years ago, my truck fell and burnt to ashes. It was only God that saved my life. And now I've been on the road for 15 days. My truck has broken down 3 times.
Nigeria has an aging 5,000-kilometer oil pipeline across the country, but vandalism has forced suppliers to transport about 50 million liters of gasoline consumed daily on often bad roads. And whenever oil tankers crash, locals scramble to scoop fuel, adding to the number of casualties. The country's Road Safety Corps says more than 500 people were killed in about 1,500 tanker accidents in 2020 alone. And in early September, about 50 people were burned alive along with dozens of cows when a tanker collided head-on with a truckload of cattle. We are now in Niger State in central Nigeria where the latest deadly tanker blast happened. Idris tells me it's a stark reminder of the deadly journey he has to navigate each time he takes to the road. Oil is a top contributor to Nigeria's economy, but safety related to its transportation has been a major concern. Analysts blame the government for negligence and rampant corruption.
Where this is happening goes to say that certain things are not done right. Certain persons who should be responsible for either issuing guidelines or sanctioning or tracking, all of these things are not doing what they should do. And well, of course, we know corruption plays a big role in all of this.
The Petrol Tanker Drivers Association wants the government's intervention.
Let the federal government come to our aid to at least, even if they will not do the road properly, let them do some kind of palliative in the flash point so that we'll find it easy to navigate, to carry this product.
Authorities say they're trying to regulate hours of service and size limits for trucks in a bid to stop accidents.
We hold meetings for drivers weekly, monthly, and yearly, just to maintain safety.
But until the roads are less treacherous, drivers like Idris will continue to confront the danger that could be fatal. Timothy Obiezu, Africa Matters, Maje, Niger State, Nigeria.
Now, close to 70 million people across southern Africa don't have enough food and water as an El Niño-induced drought continues to grip the region. As the climate crisis takes its toll on traditional crops, farmers in Zimbabwe are turning to the fruit of the baobab tree as a way of making money. But locals face tough conditions to gather and sell the fruit, as Yaren Dinch reports.
In Zimbabwe's small town of Mutsi, Lavna Spitoni has collected baobab from trees near her home ever since she was a child. Until recently, it was to add variety to her family's dinner. But now, with the increasing global demand for baobab powder, combined with the severe drought the region is facing, baobab is necessary for sheer survival.
We didn't harvest any crops this year. We are only able to survive because of the money from baobab fruits. We are only able to buy corn and salt. Cooking oil is a luxury because the money is simply not enough. I can't even talk of school fees or children's clothes.
The US, China, and Europe are now the largest markets for baobab. But collectors like Bithoni are struggling to capitalize on baobab products because food processors or middlemen offer very low prices.
The fruit is in demand because the trees didn't produce much this year. The prices are extremely low. Sometimes buyers offer 50 cents to $1 for a 5-kilogram bucket. Meanwhile, I need to sell 5 sacks to buy a 10-kilogram packet of cornmeal.
Baobab fruit pickers accuse buyers of exploiting their drought-induced hunger, leaving them with limited bargaining power.
When the buyers come to take our product, they have their own gazetted prices. But what I think they should do is to meet and consult us as the local leadership, and we agree on pricing. People have no choice because they have nothing. The buyers are imposing prices on us, and we don't have the capacity to resist because of hunger.
As the global market turns its gaze onto baobab fruit as the latest health trend, local collectors fear that the promise of this precious resource could slip away soon. Yarandinch, Africa Matters.
We head back to Eastern Africa to catch up with Kenya's booming entertainment industry, where young audiences spend hours watching their favorite movies and shows, but most of the programs are imported from overseas. That's something the local creators are trying to change, as Daniel Plafka reports from Nairobi.
Kenyans are among Africa's most enthusiastic consumers of entertainment. And in the local media landscape, comedian Eddie Butito ranks among the biggest players. The entertainer's journey from stand-up comic to Netflix-credited screenwriter has seen him brush shoulders with some prominent people. But it all started from humble beginnings.
I grew up in a place called Kariobangi, and it's a place where it's lucky enough to grow and complete the entire journey from childhood to adulthood. We were glorifying crime and vices, you see.
Eddie began performing on the stand-up stage, cracking relatable jokes about the realities of ghetto life. But he noticed the Kenyan media diet was still dominated by imports from overseas, like Nigerian movies and Latin American soaps.
Hi guys!
The lack of locally made alternatives was a gap he grew increasingly determined to fill.
Kenyans are consuming a lot of content, unfortunately, from other countries. The reason is that we don't have enough of what is original and what is Kenyan. Once we have that, our audience will feed on that and will create a culture.
Film and broadcasting represent a significant part of Kenya's economy, averaging in recent years at 0.4% of GDP. But distribution remains a largely informal affair, with fewer than 20 licensed cinemas servicing a population of over 50 million. That's led many creators to seek alternative audiences online. In 2021, Eddie made history by scripting and directing the first ever Netflix series adapted to Kenyan Swahili, a freshly recorded dub of the Black American sitcom The Upshaws.
What we were doing with Netflix was trying for the first time to use this Kenyan Swahili on a major platform. It makes people feel included and it makes them proud.
The success helped launch a series of direct-release YouTube shows that have garnered millions of views, and a media production company that employs dozens.
We've been able to create job opportunities with just this platform. We have brought in people when it comes to production. We've trained interns.
Eddie says his ultimate goal is to demonstrate that the entertainment sector can be a serious player in Kenya's economy.
Kenya has investors. Kenya has people who have money, serious money. But now we must understand that most investors don't want to think outside the box. That's what other countries are doing. In Nigeria, I was seeing a movie that spent over $1 million, just a single movie. It was not happening in Nigeria before, but right now they can do that because investors have been able to see this is real business.
For creatives like Eddie, that means shooting for the stars by growing his production company while remaining grounded in his Nairobi roots. Daniel Plafker, Africa Matters, Nairobi.
That's our show this week. Share your thoughts and suggestions about the stories you've seen on this episode, or ideas on what you'd like us to cover on YouTube or on X using the hashtag Africa Matters. Thanks for watching, and it's goodbye from me, Grace Korea Kanja.